The line didn't really work for me. I believed it to be somewhat corny, since it was clear I was a black guy playing there. Once known as the king of action movies, Wesley Snipes was the star of Hollywood's biggest hits. There was no one else like Snipes when he was on screen. He was famous for his intense martial arts skills and memorable parts in movies like Blade and Passenger 57. I'm really scared. What, you guys no longer use sarcasm? But after a string of ups and downs, such as legal fights and time away from the spotlight, fans are left wondering what happened to the action star. Wesley Snipes is finally speaking out about the stories that have been going around about him for years now, that he is 62 years old. What is the secret he has been keeping from you, and why did he just disappear? Stay tuned to find out the shocking truth he just told you. I'm Wesley Snipes. Childhood. First, let's talk about the stories that have been going around about Wesley Snipes. He went from being a young boy with big dreams to becoming the action star we all know. Wesley Trent Snipes was born on July 31st, 1962, in Orlando, Florida. This is where his life begins. Things changed quickly when young Wesley's parents moved him to the busy and sometimes rough streets of the South Bronx in New York City. He was no longer in sunny Florida. Even though the Bronx had its problems, it was also where Wesley found his love for the arts. Can you believe he was already playing in a play off Broadway called The Me Nobody Knows when he was only 12 years old? There was no doubt that he loved acting, but he also fell in love with martial arts very early on. Wesley began training when he was 7 years old and quickly got better. He got many awards over the years, including a 5th degree black belt in Shotokan Karate and a 2nd degree black belt in Hapkido. He was also very good at Kung Fu and weapons. Wesley went to the famous High School of Performing Arts in New York City from 1975 to 1977 and delved deeply into music, dance, and acting. When his family moved back to Orlando, things changed. The city's fast pace fed his dreams. Florida's calm, relaxed vibe was very different from the Bronx's lively atmosphere. At first, Snipes had a hard time getting used to it, but he didn't let that stop him. He quickly joined Jones High School's drama program, which sparked his love of performing. Wesley wasn't like most high school students. He joined a local theater group called Struttin' Street Stuff to make extra money. They put on puppet shows in parks and schools. It didn't end there. He was so good that he even did a one-man show in which he played Puck in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. His act was so strong that it won him an award, making him an even bigger star on the rise. Wesley knew he wanted to follow his dream of becoming an actor after he graduated from Jones High. After going to the State University of New York at Purchase, he worked hard at acting and became better at it. His hard work paid off, and he quickly became a star in a number of shows. But what was that exact turning point? What made him go from being a talented kid in acting school to one of the biggest stars in Hollywood? Stay with us as we talk about the big discovery that changed Wesley Snipes' life for good. For Wesley Snipes to make progress, Wesley was needed. Snipes had a rough start in Hollywood. When he first came out, people weren't very nice to him. But Snipes was so interesting that it was impossible to avoid him. He stood out in a crowd because he was naturally active and had a magical air about him. In the tough world of show business, these special traits would help him stay alive. Early on, he worked with future stars, big names in the business, and even an Oscar-winning director. A kid from the Bronx has come this far. Who would have thought? Wesley's first show on Broadway was The Boys of Winter in 1985. It was a big step forward in his career. People were impressed by his performance, which led to parts in TV commercials and regional theater. A casting agent saw him at a talent show, though, and that was the big break. For him, that was his big break, the moment that led to more chances. The next year, Snipes got his first part in a movie, playing an angry football player opposite the famous Goldie Hawn in Wildcats. It was an important moment, and it was the start of a long relationship with actor Woody Harrelson. They would go on to work together twice more. In the same year, Snipes also co-starred in Streets of Gold, which was directed by Joe Roth, who would later become a studio executive. He played an up-and-coming boxer. Wesley was having a tough time. But his part in Michael Jackson's Bad music video was what really made him stand out. In the movie, Snipes played a gang boss who got into a heated fight with Jackson that became famous. In the end, director Spike Lee said that Wesley was so good at his part that Michael Jackson must have been scared to death. Just think about how powerful that would be in just one music video. Martin Scorsese directed the longer version of Bad, which has a fight between Snipes' character and Jackson's character, but Jackson wins by being danced into submission. That scene became famous and put Snipes on the map in Hollywood. Even after only a year, people were already noticing how talented he was. But like most jobs, there were good times and bad times. Soon, Snipes had a dry spell. During this time, he did a variety of other things to make ends meet, such as therapeutic massage and parking cars. Things seemed to have slowed down, but just as things were getting calm, a phone call sped things up again. It wasn't just any call, it was from Spike Lee, who liked Snipes' work. Lee did give Snipes a small part in his groundbreaking movie Do the Right Thing at first, but Wesley had bigger plans. He didn't settle for a small part instead. He focused on a bigger role that would change his career. In 1989, that chance came up when he played Willie Mays Hayes in the hit comedy Major League. Hayes talked a lot and stole the base. The movie did well at the box office and gave Snipes' career a boost. What did Wesley do next that was important? How did he go from being a rising star to a movie star? For this one, Snipes' big break, you'll want to stay put. He got his big break when he worked with Spike Lee on the famous 1991 movie Jungle Fever. In this movie, Snipes played a man in a complicated relationship with a woman of a different race, and his performance was nothing short of powerful. People began to pay attention when critics praised how honest and emotional he was in the role. Wesley gave a great performance in this important role that called for a lot of depth. It's hard not to wonder if this is the role that will define him. Snipes didn't end there, though. In the same year, 1991, he played the cold and cunning drug lord Nino Brown in New Jack City, which was another role that made his career. An interesting fact is that this part was written with Snipes in mind, and it showed. His performance as Nino was scary, intense, and unforgettable. The movie was a huge hit at the theaters and brought new life to the urban crime genre. Wesley became known as an actor who could take over a movie with both charm and danger thanks to the success of New Jack City. For Snipes, the 1990s were truly a golden age, and his business kept going up. Blade, a movie based on the Marvel Comics character, took Snipes to a whole new level in 1998. Hollywood had never really seen anything like Blade before. It was a unique mix of action, horror, and comic book stories. A hero who was half vampire and half human was played by Snipes. He hunted down supernatural enemies with style and power. The movie made more than $150 million around the world, and Snipes' performance as the lead became a culture phenomenon. Think about a time when Snipes didn't play Blade. But what's really cool about Wesley is how flexible he is. It wasn't just crime and action movies. Snipes did a stunning job in the 1997 movie One Night Stand, which won him the prestigious Volpe Cup at the Venice Film Festival for Best Actor. People saw a more vulnerable and complex side of the actor in this small-scale story. After this, he had other great roles such as the moving one in The Water Dance 1992, a touching drama, and the unforgettable comedy Thanks for Everything, Wong Fu-Julie Newmar in 1995, in which Snipes played a drag queen, showing that he was good at any style. Before the end of the decade, everyone knew who Wesley Snipes was. It was impossible to deny his star power. In 1998, he was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is a true reflection of how important he was to the movie business. It's the new millennium. As the 2000s began, Wesley Snipes faced a lot of problems, but he also had times when he felt like he had accomplished something big. When the Blade series ended with Blade Trinity in 2004, it was a huge hit, but Snipes' career took a big turn for the worse. He should have been able to build on his action hero fame during this time, but instead he had to deal with court problems and lost money. Being found guilty of tax fraud was one of the worst things that happened to Snipes' career in 2006. It wasn't just a pat on the back. The punishment was harsh. A 3-year jail sentence that ruined his career and made it uncertain whether he would ever be able to work in Hollywood again. Imagine being at the top of your job and then getting in trouble with the law, which brought it all crashing down. When Snipes came out in 2013, it was a shocking fall from power for an actor who had once ruled the box office. Could he come back? That was the question everyone had in mind. Snipes didn't wait around. After being out for a year, he came back to the big screen with a part in The Expendables 3. When Snipes reunited with Sylvester Stallone and joined an all-star group, he brought back memories of his days as an action star. The message was clear. He wasn't ready to go yet. Wesley Snipes continued to make a name for himself in Hollywood over the next few years, but this time with a wider range of roles. In 2019, he played opposite Eddie Murphy in the historical comedy Dolomite Is My Name, which showed how versatile he was and how good he was at timing jokes. Then there was Coming to America and True Story in 2021, which stars Snipes and Kevin Hart together. People liked his parts in these movies, but they didn't quite make him popular like they used to. It's odd that he didn't get more publicity. Wesley has won some things in the 2000s, but he hasn't had as much going on as he did in the 1900s. Fans have noticed that the former action star is harder to find, even though he's been in a few big movies and TV shows lately. The Wesley Snipes we all knew is nowhere to be found. For what reason has he taken a step back? We can now move on to the next part, which goes into more detail about the terrible things that happened in his life. Troubles in his personal life. Wesley Snipes' search for who he was didn't end with his hard childhood. He had trouble with those things even after college and while he was in college. That was his first year at Purchase College, where he was one of only 4 African-American theater arts students. As Snipes said, that must have been very lonely, like mold on white bread. He was smart and attractive, but he had trouble fitting in with people who made him feel like an outsider. But Malcolm X's writings saved Snipes' life. They helped him feel strong and good about himself, which helped him get through these hard times. The goal wasn't just to get by. To do well in a place that wasn't always nice was the point. This helped him figure out who he was and set him on the path to becoming a performer. Snipes even changed his religion to Islam during his first year of college. His faith gave him comfort and strength. It kept him grounded and gave him respect when everything else around him looked like it might not work out. That Islam had made him strong enough at that time, but he was ready to leave and go his own way. After 3 years, he gave up the faith. There was no stopping Snipes from always improving himself and his career, and this was another example of that. For Wesley, becoming an actor was still a dream, even though it was tough for him to fit in. While he was in college, he tried out for Harry Belafonte's movie Beat Street, which was about break dancers. That's too bad Snipes didn't get the part. He didn't let the loss stop him, which is very Wesley. Instead, it taught him something and made him want to keep going even more. Even though he was very good at acting, had a lot of experience, and was charming, Snipes never got the lead role in any of the school plays. Could you picture that? He had the potential to be a Hollywood star, but at his own college, he wasn't given major roles. Wesley Snipes did something brave because he wanted to show what he could do and go beyond what other people thought he could do. He quit college early because he was ready to work full-time. His bet paid off right away. His acting skills were quickly noticed, and he was given parts that showed them off. These ranged from serious dramas to comedic roles and even dance acts that could end a show. Someone who taught him acting at Purchase College once told him to do straight theater, sing, and even plan dance numbers that would end the show. Back then, too, Snipes had a strong sense of being aware of black people. Do they really say what they say? It's time now. It was clear that Wesley Snipes was telling the truth. Based on what Wesley Snipes said, it was true. When Wesley Snipes played the lead in Michael Jackson's Bad music video in 1987, his life changed in a big way. You might have thought that his job would keep getting better after being a part of such a well-known event, but it didn't. For a while, Snipes had trouble getting steady work. To pay the bills, he worked as a service driver and a remedial masseur. You wouldn't think that this would be a fun life for a rising Hollywood star. But Wesley was about to get a big break. His luck changed when he was cast in HBO's Vietnam War story. That led to an even bigger chance in 1989. He played Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. This movie made over $75 million around the world thanks to its sports humor. It was more than just a good business deal. You should keep an eye on Snipes after that. A lot of people said that he was funny and cute in the movie. There was talk of a follow-up to Major League because it was such a big hit. But Wesley had already seen some of the good and bad things about fame by that point. He talked about the planned Snipes movie with Corbin Burnson, who worked with him a few years later. He didn't always have fun, though. The stress of fame made things worse for him. While riding his motorcycle in August 1993, he was pulled over in Hollywood for having a gun on him. It wasn't just any gun, it had hollow point bullets in it, which are very dangerous. Snipes was given a $2,700 fine and will not be watched for 2 years. In 1994, not long after that, he got into trouble again. This time it was for riding his motorbike at 120 miles per hour and leading Florida State Police on a chase at high speed. The chase ended with a crash. He only got a ticket for careless driving, but the whole thing made people think less of him. Even after these failures, Wesley was still determined to become a superstar. After he signed with one of the best talent agencies in Hollywood, his director told him that nothing could stop him. But Hollywood isn't always what it seems to be. Here's why some studio heads didn't want to cast Snipes right away. They told his agent that his skin was too dark. They did say they wouldn't hire anyone darker than Denzel Washington. But Wesley wasn't the type to wait around for someone to agree with him. He was going to make his own way, even though he was going against the crowd. He was very brave when he played Nino Brown in New Jack City. Wesley was excited to play a mean drug lord because he thought it would be a great chance to show what he could do. Everything went well. His work in New Jack City got him a lot of praise and made him a main man in Hollywood. He thought he was the most popular person in the world, but being famous had some bad effects. While making Water Dance in the spring of 1991, Wesley went through something that would shake him to the core. His company let him take a Mustang, but someone on set said it was stolen when it wasn't theirs. That night in downtown Los Angeles, the LAPD stopped Wesley. Another mistake turned into something very bad from what it should have been. He had to lie on the ground face down with his hands tied by a police officer who had a gun to his head. He asked the cops several times why they were holding him, but they wouldn't tell him. After 2 hours at the police station, Wesley was let go. In the end, he said it was the most embarrassing thing that had ever happened to him. The event made black people very angry, and many of Wesley's friends, including Blair Underwood and Reginald T. Dorsey, stood by him and talked about how they had been mistreated by police. Around Wesley, Black Hollywood came together. But as time went on, some of his fans began to think that he was pulling away from the people who had backed him. Black parties and award ceremonies he rarely went to made people think he was turning his back on the people who had supported him. As Wesley's career went on, people didn't like the parts he was picking. Some fans didn't like the romance between two people of different races in Jungle Fever 1991. However, by the time One Night Stand came out in 1997, things were at their worst. Some of his fans didn't like that the plot once again involved a connection between two people of different races. In an interview with Vibe magazine in October 1993, Wesley said some things that caused a lot of trouble. A lot of black women felt nervous when he talked about the kinds of women he liked to date. His job in the entertainment business put him in touch with lots of white people, which led him to date more white women. It wasn't as hard for Wesley to date white women than it was for black women. He didn't feel like he had to prove himself all the time with white women. A lot of people were mad at what he said, and not just about the types of women he liked. It was thought that black women were more difficult to be with. Second, Wesley made things worse for himself when he talked about how great his new Asian girlfriend Donna Wong was in public in November 1997. There was a different vibe between them, which made things worse between Wesley and some of his black fans, he said. When he married South Korean painter and artist Nikki Park in 2003, the damage was already done. Together they have 4 kids. A film critic named Kamal Lowe once said that whenever he wrote about a Wesley Snipes movie, people would tell him they wouldn't watch it because of something he had said before. If a movie didn't do well, some people would even say serves him right for making fun of black women. Wesley kept working and took on roles that no one thought he would play, like the drag queen Noxeema Jackson in Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything Julie Newmar. His fans didn't know what happened to the man they used to look up to. But just as people started to question the jobs he was choosing, Wesley made a huge return. He played Blade, a vampire hunter who is half human and half vampire, in the August 1998 movie Blade. Everything changed. A storm was forming in the background while Wesley was back in the spotlight with Blade. This storm would change his life forever. Fights in court and the fall. After Blade Trinity did so well, Wesley Snipes was back in the spotlight as one of the biggest action stars in Hollywood. The movie did well at the box office, even though some critics didn't really like it. He became well known again, but only for a little while. Besides that, it looked like things for him got worse as quickly as they got better. After Blade Trinity, Wesley was in a few projects that didn't quite work. That movie that didn't do well at the box office or get good reviews was The Art of War. It didn't get better with movies like Zigzag and Undisputed. Blade Trinity hit him hard in the end. Even though it made him a lot of money, Hollywood didn't like it. After that, there were issues with the law. The people who made Blade Trinity were sued by Wesley for $5 million by New Line Cinema. He said they broke his contract as a co-executive producer. He said that the director, the plot, and even the actors were chosen without his knowledge. That's not all he said. He also said that director David Goyer was rude to him and called him racist names. Wesley also said that New Line Cinema didn't give him enough screen time and that they only cast white people in major roles. He even said they owed him $3 million and didn't help him get a tax break for filming in Canada. There were whispers on set about how Wesley was acting. Patton Oswalt, a comedian who worked on Blade Trinity, said that Wesley spent most of his time in his trailer, giving notes to the crew to talk to them and often being alone. There were even rumors that Wesley and Goyer got into a fight, but Wesley rejected those claims. Some crew members said Wesley wasn't a team player because he only helped other artists with close-up shots. Some even said he called Jessica Biel that girl instead of her name. Even though Wesley tried to explain himself by saying that a lot of the people who were mean to him were racist, harm was done. People in Hollywood, which is known for making hard choices, began to avoid him. When Wesley was caught traveling with a fake South African visa in July 2005, things got even worse. He was told he was not wanted. Then, in 2019, Marvel announced that the Blade series would begin again, but this time Mahershala Ali would play the lead part instead of Wesley. It was clear that Hollywood would go on without Wesley, even though he wasn't upset about it. Wesley was one of the highest paid actors in the 1990s. He got $10 million per movie plus 10% of the income. Things got worse for him with money as the 2000s got closer. In 2002, the William Morris Agency sued him for a loan of $500,000. The bank took back the Florida house that Wesley bought for $1.7 million in 2003. It only brought $636,000 at sale. They told Wesley that the mortgage papers had a fake name on them to stop the sale, but the courts didn't agree with him. In 2007, Wesley was charged with not having filed his tax returns for the years 1999 through 2004. This hit the hardest. His tax bill was about $12 million, the government told him. Wesley and two other people were charged with planning to cheat on their taxes. For 3 years, Wesley tried to stay away from the IRS by not declaring the $38 million he made as income. He even wrote strange letters asking for safety under the Constitution. Rather than coming up with the plan, he said, it was a client who put their trust in the wrong people. Wesley fought the charges against him, but he was found guilty of 3 misdemeanors for not paying his taxes and given a 3-year prison sentence. Besides that, he had to pay a huge fine of up to $5 million. In his appeal, Wesley said that his sentence was too harsh and that he would not be able to get a fair hearing in Florida. That being said, his appeal was turned down. He was locked up for 28 months in a federal prison in Pennsylvania. After Wesley got out of jail, the IRS said he's still owing almost $18 million in back taxes. When Wesley could take it no longer, he sued the tax office, saying that they had lied about his numbers to get more money from him. He lost his job and looked even worse in the eyes of the public because of these court battles. He kept getting movie roles, but they were few and far between. Wesley Snipes, who used to be a big star, was becoming much less noticeable. People in the film business were eager to see how Wesley would do when he got back to Hollywood from jail. After everything he had been through, was it possible for him to come back? He's still working, but mostly in smaller, less important jobs because he can't get the big roles he used to. It's interesting that he loves dancing and musical theater more than making movies ever did. Not long ago, Wesley said, but it didn't fully satisfy me. He meant that if he had to choose between making a movie and an opera, he'd always make the opera. Even though things go up and down in Wesley Snipes' life and work, he keeps going. It's clear from him that you can keep going even after bad things happen. His story shows that fame can fade, but that to get through life's troubles, you still need to grow as a person and keep going. Now it's your turn to talk. How do you feel about Wesley Snipes? Post your answer below. Family, I'm glad you watched. Remember to like this movie and follow our channel if you liked it. Watch the next movie that comes up on your screen before you leave.